Good evening, everyone. So, this is our continuation of our previous class where we had stopped with our lesson 2 with the topic which we have learned last time was user-defined macro variables. So, today we'll be continuing this lesson with these two topics, which is delimiting macro variable references and what are macro functions. So to begin with this topic, let revise what we have completed last time. So last time we got introduced to what macro variables are, what are the types of macro variables, correct? So to begin or just to discuss again, so can anyone tell me what are the types of macro variables?
Automatic
Automatic
and
and user defined.
Yes, we have automatic and user-defined macro variables, absolutely correct. And where are they saved?
global. What is it? No, I just remember global.
Very true. It's called as global symbol table. You can, it's a part of the memory, but we term it as global symbol table. Yes. And how one can create user-defined macro variables?
Simplet.
Yes, %let give the macro variable name and its value. And how do we refer the macro variable in your program?
Ampersand.
Put ampersand like
Ampersand followed with the name variable name. Percent sign is not of your macro variable to be created. Percent sign along with the name indicates it's a statement of your macro. All right. Yeah. Then we saw how one can create macro variables and use it in your programs. Now we'll see how one can delimit macro variable references. Okay, so what is delimit? Okay, let's understand this. So objective here is we'll have a code or code macro variable references with leading or trailing texts, and we'll see how a code which consists adjacent macro variable references. All right, so let's understand this through a scenario. Now, if you look at this program with the areas which they have highlighted, okay, so you're creating a proc chart on a dataset Orion dot Y 2010 Jan. Okay, and you're using this data set again in plot. Okay, you're creating a plot and you're creating a chart out of this table. And this table, if you see the name 2010 2010 here also Jan. So this is for a specific month and year. You have a table respectively as a separate table. So like this, you may have for various years, for every year, its respective months table like this. You will be having, okay? But every time using that table name, you can create a macro variable on your value and your month value, okay? And the analysis column on which the table is going to represent on its sale column is again used in presentation. So it's again going to be a variable which is commonly used in both of this program. So instead of writing this and this regularly, we can create a macro variable where the value for 2011 later on can change depending on your business scenario. Now that you want to generate a report for the year 2011 and the month is September. Okay. So are you again going to go to your code, do the manual changes? No. So you are going to create a macro variable for this frequently changing data sets name. Okay. So we need to automate the program on this area. Fine. So it's telling production program below requires the user to repetitively enter a desired year, month, and analysis variable. Because here currently, if you are working on sale column, so maybe in future, this sale column, instead of sale, you might be using the quantity column. Okay. Or apart from quantity, you might be also using customer ID column. That this customer ID column frequently how many what is the frequency of a customer, particular customer who is doing the purchase with your organization with Orion. Okay, so if this is the requirement, so this could be instead of writing it manually, you can always make a macro variable, right? That's what it's telling. So what is the different about this scenario? So what is the different about this scenario is because if you are creating a macro variable on the values which they have highlighted, so the macro variables is going to represent like this. How they are representing? So again, for year, it's a macro variable. So there are two macro variables adjacent to each other. Here you have a macro variable preceded with a text or a sign. Here you have a macro variable again followed with another sign. You have two macro variables. Okay, and here you have a macro variable which is preceded with a simple text. So look at the scenario how it's coming. So it's a combination where the macro variable appears in this scenario. So it's telling a macro variable reference can appear anywhere, but additional syntax is sometimes required. So in this program, so there is no any harm of your program writing in this, or there is no syntax error also. Okay. So let's understand the situation. So there is an area where macro variable is followed with a leading text. There is a scenario where you have adjacent macro variable references. There is a scenario where you have a trailing text. So which of the above situation might have a problem when we are executing? Okay, so ideally, syntactically, this is correct. But when you are executing this type of program, okay, understand what will happen. So before it, let's understand leading text is never a problem. Leading text, that means before this macro variable, this text will have never problem. Okay, where this month, this macro variable represents the month of your data. Okay, so leading text will never have a problem. But what will cause a problem? So like for example, you have created these two macro variables on year and month and you're using it in your program. So it's actually going to represent like this, ideally. Okay. So adjacent macro variable references are also never a problem. Adjacent macro variables are also never a problem. Then which part it's telling is going to be a problem? Then you are telling trailing text can be a problem. Why? So why is trailing text not a problem here again? So here they're telling sometimes it can be a problem, but in this there won't be a problem. Okay. So why? So for that it's telling your macro variable is having a trailing special sign. So this special sign indicates it's a delimiter that when a macro processor is processing this particular macro variable, it will read from ampersand till this R because this star acts as a delimiter. So it's not a part of the text of this macro variable name. Hence, it will delimit this macro variable and it will be able to read it correctly. So it's trailing text is a problem if it changes the reference. Now here there is no problem because it's a special sign. Okay. But when it comes to an example like this, okay, for example, look at this program. In base SAS, if you want to generate a report, okay, for graphical presentation, we use proxy chart or proc plot. But in case if you're using a graphical software at the at specifically you're asking SAS to use graphs of SAS software in your programming, we just reference this as gchart and gplot. Okay, so it's telling create a macro variable that toggles between base or ggraph procedure. That means you want to make a macro variable for this g. Okay, that means it will represent, suppose this G, you're creating a macro variable as graphs. So you're writing proc ampersand graph G chart, proc ampersand plot. Okay, so this is what it's telling. Answer is this is what. Create a macro variable that toggles between base SAS or graphs procedure. So this is what you're doing. Percent let graphics is equal to G. So you're representing that G chart ampersand graphics. You represent that G as ampersand plots. So what is the problem with this reference now? Now understand carefully. I hope you've understood this slide, what we are doing it. Everyone?
Yeah.
Yes, Shanmuga, Priyanka, Swarupa.
Yes, Ashwin.
Yes,
Okay,
Ashwin.
great. So when you are writing it, you get this type of errors and warning. So what is happening? So it's telling you have a warning and it's telling you a error. So why we are getting is this. So it's because one sec. I'll just show you this code how it's running. So we'll work with only first code, okay? So here it's telling us this. Apparent symbolic reference G graphics chart not resolved. Of course, we have not created year and month, but just understand this. What does this mean? Look at it. Look at this. Observe carefully. Observe this. And tell me what must be happening in the backend, in the memory.
We prepared it for percent graphics. That's why
Okay, but then,
it is coming with a graphics chart, right?
so what is happening?
So we are not
You are
prepared for
partially correct.
graphics
No
chart.
problem. Yeah.
We have prepared it for graphics, right? Percent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like this. So let me also make it as percent let. Uh, you're equal to. Think upon this. I'll just keep myself on mute.
It will give value only if it is percent graphics, right? It is percent graphic.
Yes,
I,
yes,
I think the
yes,
complete graphics chart is considered as macro variable here by the SAS.
yes, absolutely correct.
There should be some separation of, from the,
Correct.
right?
Absolutely. Both of you are on the correct track. So what is happening, because we have created a macro variable as graphics on G, where G plot we are representing as ampersand graphics chart. Okay. So when this is a macro trigger, so when this whole statement is been processed via input stack to word scanner, because this is a macro trigger, it moves from here till here as a whole word as a macro variable. It goes into macro processor. Okay. Therefore, in macro processor, it is trying to look in your global symbol table for this whole word as a macro variable graphics chart. But we have created only graphics as a macro variable, no graphics chart, and that is why we are getting this warning. And later on, because it's resolving as graphics chart, it is treating as if it's trying to find out, because it's a procedure, and it's trying to take that this as one of your graphics chart procedure, which is not as any standard procedures in SAS. Therefore it's telling it's expecting a name. All right, so it's telling this is syntax error. That's why you're getting this red. And never any type of procedure word starts with ampersand sign, because again it follows the naming conventions of your SAS where it should begin with a letter or an underscore, not with an special sign. That is why it's telling expecting a name for your procedure, and this statement is not valid, and later on it's not able to understand the further lines also. All right. So that is what we are going to see, that why or how are you going to ask SAS that it should stop reading till here as a macro variable, and this is simple text. So this is a problem in this area when you have a macro variable followed with your text. Are you getting it now? So whenever you have a macro variable followed with a trailing text, this is the area of concern. So
Without
it's nowhere we have any syntax error. It's just the way how SAS takes. So it's a problem. So we need to take precautions that how you can avoid these things. All right. So this is what we were saying. So SAS interprets the macro variable's name as graphics chart because no delimiter separates, or there is no sign which indicates SAS that from ampersand till graphics is the macro variable, and from chart it is going to be your trailing text. So we are going to give certain indication of delimiting your macro variables where it can be distinguished between a macro variable and a trailing text. Hence we come ahead with this period. Okay, so this period is a special delimiter that ends a macro variable reference. So the period does not appear as text when macro variable is resolved. That means when we are writing this program, I go back here. I'll try to also give the macro variable to be created for sale. Okay, so I write percent let sale equal to, no, var equal to is the column is sale, correct? It's var equal to sale. Fine. Now when only I am working with G chart, okay? So ideally we get this error with your ampersand chart. All right. So I'm going to give a period here. Same I'll do here. So it's resolving correctly, but only thing is we don't have any data in our database named as 2010 Jan. Okay. So this is not a concern, but understand nowhere you have a warning that a macro variable is not resolved. All right, so don't think about this dataset name, but this is how it's working perfectly to try to resolve G as graphics because of this period. Are you getting it now? So
So
this
we have to be
period is,
careful, Ashwini, only when it
yes,
is a trailing text,
yes, you have to be very careful when you are writing
not
your
with the
program.
leading text, right? Only.
Leading text will not have a problem. Why?
Okay.
Because understand, in case if you have a macro variable here as a leading text, so of course during word
It
scanning,
will
this will
not
be
trigger.
your name token. And during scanning, it is a trigger. So this will treat it as a separate macro value, and this is as a separate macro trigger.
Yeah.
Getting it? Hence, adjacent macro variables will have no problem. A macro variable followed with a leading text is no problem, but a macro variable followed with a trailing text will have sometimes a problem in case if this text is not a special sign. So in this area, it was not showing any problem here. Why? Because it was ending with a special sign. So it's treating this from here to here as a macro trigger. Are you getting it? But
Yeah.
in this case, it was not treating this as a separate word because it was treating as a part of your text like this as a whole, because there is no indication telling SAS that it should start tokenizing from here till here so that it understand it's a macro trigger. But there is no differentiation whether this is a simple text which is considering a different meaning, and of course only till here is your macro variable. Are you getting it now?
Yes. Thank you.
Hence we need to provide this delimiter, which distinguish or it asks as while tokenizing in your word scanner that when it indicates it's a macro trigger, so from where to where it's going to read its value till here. Okay.
should Ashwini, shouldn't we give this delimiter in the percent let statement also?
No, why percent let statement? It will read it as a part of your value there.
Here,
No need
graphical
of giving in percent let statement. Okay? Yes. So word
Ashwini,
scanner
i-
yeah.
instead of that period, we can give a space also, right?
Yes, you can give space, but then when you give space, okay, let's try it out. But it will treat it as a separate word. See, it will treat it as a separate word. How it will treat it as a separate word? It will actually, when it will resolve like proc. Are you understanding?
Yes.
That is why in log it's telling procedure G not found. Why? Because there is a space. Of course, it treated this as a separate macro variable. From your global symbol table in macro processor, it resolved this to G. Hence, this G will treat as a separate text. From input stack, it will then go to word scanner. So word scanner treats this as a individual name text. Then it will read chart. Hence, it looks like this.
Okay, got it.
Got it?
Ashwini,
Yeah.
where this text was written, like in the book, there was no gap between G and chart.
I was just explaining Shanmuga because
No,
she
that
had a
I
query.
understood. That I understood. That
Huh.
why you are not giving a blank and rather giving a full stop, right?
Period.
That,
Hmm.
yeah, period.
Normally, it is actually prog G chart. This is the whole word.
Okay, it's together. Okay,
Okay.
that's what
So
I
it's
was
a
asking.
procedure. That's what we had this slide earlier, which was telling that in base SAS
Oh yeah.
software we use chart plot. But in case if you are writing as G chart, it actually represents at the back end you are asking SAS to use this graph software. So it will give you the result same as what it will give here, but you are writing G chart, that means graphic G chart, G plot. So it's like this.
I was
Are
asking
you
this
getting it?
one. Yeah, this one only because I did not see clearly if there was a gap
Uh-huh.
between this or not. That's why.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Okay, so this is what we are interested. So the word scanner recognizes the end of a macro variable reference when it encounters a character that cannot be part of your reference. Just read this slide. Understood how it's working now? Okay,
Yes,
should I
Ashwini.
move ahead? Yeah. So see, it will represent or it will resolve like this. So this code does not include period. Why? Because this is normally how we actually represent your graphs like this. So use a period to delimit the end of your macro variable reference. So your trailing text solution is, oh, like you have overcome this issue. All right. Now, if this is solved, let's answer this poll. Modify the previous example to include a macro variable that stores a library, a libref reference. Now we know Orion is very common in every data which we represents here as a leading word, correct? So we write it 2 levels as dataset name. So on Orion library also we are creating a macro and we are using it in your program. So now you tell everything is good, still it's going to give you some issues. So what is the problem here now?
One more period we have to
Yes.
give as well.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because the period which is already there, it is a part of text.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, to separate the macro variable, we should give one more period in this.
Okay. Do you agree with Nilima, everyone?
Yeah, because we write like Orion dot and then the
Mm-hmm.
name of the set or the data set files. So then there should be two of them.
Okay. Very true. Very true. Absolutely correct. So this is what it's telling, that when you will resolve or when SAS tries to resolve this during your macro processing, ampersand lib will read as Orion. Okay. Then because we write as Orion dot and a table name, that single dot earlier was treated a delimiter for this macro variable. Hence, ampersand lib resolves to Orion. So this delimiter indicates it is going to stop processing for this macro variable. Then it moves to Y. Y, it will take it as a part of a text. Hence, it represents like this. Orion, Y, and resolves 2010 and Jan. So this is what is representing. So it will treat the whole thing as a data set. Try to find this data and you'll get an error. So the period after ampersand lib is interpreted as a delimiter. So the period does not appear as a part of your text. Part of your text means we know the name of your table is with 2 levels as data set, that is libref.file name. So to solve this problem, we need to give another delimiter. So one delimiter acts as, or one period acts as a delimiter and one acts as a part of your text. Hence, it will represent like this later on. Understood?
Yes.
Yes.
Swarupa,
Yes.
Priyanka.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. So let's have an exercise on this. So keep your PDF book handy. I need to open it. If you people have opened it, start doing the first level of exercise on it, please. So you have this exercise on page 2-54, level 1, exercise number 8. So start doing this. Level 1, exercise 8, page 2-54. Okay. So why you are getting error? You tell me. Go to your log, look into your program. Where is the error? Very simple part.
Double quotation in where?
Yes. So whenever you're using a macro variable Shanmuga as a value to be referenced with quotes, the macro variable has to resolve with double quotation. So put double quotation here. Yes. Now execute. Done. Now why you're getting that warning in your code? Go to your log. Okay, it's about integrity, no problem. But you got the output?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Priyanka, hope you are able to work on this. Priyanka,
I'm
Swarupa,
actually, I'm working on it, but it's okay.
what happened? You're getting error?
No, I'm just still working on that, but I think I can
No, no,
see.
you can take your time.
Okay.
I'll wait for it. No problem. So Sharmuga, please stop sharing your screen. So now let's work with macro functions. Now till date we know what are macro variables, how one can create it, how one can where they are saved, what are the types of macro variables, how they resolve, and how do we delimit the macro variables. Now we'll see about the macro functions. So we'll use macro language functions to manipulate text. We'll use macro language functions to perform arithmetic operations. And we'll use macro language functions to execute SAS functions. So moving ahead with this topic, so look at this scenario. So it's telling the production program below requires manual entry of the year and dataset name. How do you eliminate your manual data entry part here? Now, what are you doing here actually? It's you are actually creating a table from Orion.orders and you are creating this orders data only for the order date which were placed in the year 2011. And this value you are hard coding, but it's the year which you are extracting from your date, which should be 2011. Correct? And you are in, and from this table which you have created as a data set, you are now using a proc means to generate a report. So now you are again hard coding this value of your data set name in your title. So you need to overcome this manual entry of this particular program. Okay. So how you'll overcome this? That's what this topic is all about. So moving ahead with this 2011. So normally we know the date is always saved in the form of SAS date 9 dot format. Correct? So your system date is ampersand sys date 9 equal to this value. Right? So here we can make use of a macro variable where you can extract only the year part from this system date. And we know the recently created dataset name is always saved as a automatic macro variable called ampersand syslast. So instead of typing the name here, you can make use of this work dot orders, which is recently created in the memory as a value of SAS macro variable, which is automatic called syslast. We are going to extract only this word. Are you getting it? What are we going to do now?
Yes.
Yes. So from your automatic macro variables, you are going to extract the values. All right. Is the slide clear? Understood?
Extraction
Yes.
using functions.
Yeah.
Extractions using SAS functions.
That's what we are learning now. So moving ahead, in case if I want to extract this substring, so which function you will use here? I just from 2000, sorry, 23 Jan 2011. I want to extract only this part as if
Subs-
this is a string. Of course, it's a string because in macros, even if this is a date, it's going to saved as a text. So how I'll extract this part? Any idea which function I can use?
Substring.
Absolutely correct. How about this? It's work dot orders.
Second one. Scan.
Scan, absolutely correct. Why? Because it's the word or the strings are separated with the delimiter. Correct? Fine, absolutely correct. So this is the question. In data step, what function would you use to extract the year portion of your character date? And of course, you had very correctly answered because it's a simple text value. See, it's put into quotes for date. So how you'll write the syntax here to extract here
Substring of date starting
of
from,
date? It's not like this.
no,
Substring in parenthesis, give your string, which is your date,
no,
comma, starting
6,
position, how many characters? Correct? So this
6,
is what you
4.
mostly write. Six, only six can also be used because starting from sixth position, n number of characters. So it's n still here. So it will only select 2011. Correct? So this is what the function we are using on this particular variable, which is your simple SAS variable. In our case, we are going to use macro functions. So whenever you use a macro functions, we use macro or we have macro variables, we use macro functions. Okay, so in our case, this is a macro variable, correct? Ampersand sysdate, ampersand syslast. It's not a SAS variable. Are you getting it? It's not a variable coming from a data set. It's not a column from a data set, correct? But it's a macro variable. Are you getting it what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes, Ashwin.
Yes, so the difference here is it's a date. It's a simple SAS variable. Okay, but here in our case, we have a macro variable. And to work on macro variables, to extract the values from your macro variables, we use macro functions. And the function is same like your base SAS, but it's preceded with a percent sign. All right. So it has the same syntax. Only difference is it works on macro variable. So your macro variable name is ampersand sysdate 96. Okay. So you just hold on.
Ashwini, but this sys date 9 will give the current date, right?
Yes, I'll come to your answer. Don't worry. I'll come to, it's a very good question. So for your current date, currently we don't have any data set. That is also very correct. So it's just trying to give you the insight that how one can use this automatic macro variables or your own macro variables to work in your current scenario. Okay. So let my studio start initializing, then I'll be showing you this. Okay. So before it comes, meanwhile it comes up, let's go to a So see, macro functions are executed by macro processor. Macro function because it's preceding with percent sign. Because it's preceding with percent sign, it's a macro trigger. Percent followed with a name token or a variable name or any name. That means it's going to be processed in macro processor. So these are some of your macro functions. Same like your base SAS, no difference. Okay, everything works as same as your base SAS. Apart from this, we do have certain macro functions like percent eval, percent sys function, percent str, percent nrstr. So percent eval is a function which will help us to evaluate your numeric arithmetic operations or mathematical expressions. Sys functions, if you are using certain SAS functions, you need to execute those SAS functions on your macro. We use sys function. What is str and nrstr? We'll see it. Same we'll see with how is sys function working and how is eval working. So yes, coming back here again. So let me reconnect to my library. Okay. So currently, for example, now I write percent put, sys date. Okay. what it will give you the value for sysdate, ampersand sysdate. So it's not sysdate 9, but yes, I'll write sysdate 9. Okay. Now what value it will give me when I'm writing person put with ampersand sysdate 9?
April 2022.
Yes. So whatever is my current system date, it will give me in my date 9 dot format. Correct. So among this, I want to extract only this part. So how I'll do it? So I may ask SAS. So I'll again write, suppose I'll create a macro variable percent let. I create it as year equal to, and I'm using percent sub str on my macro variable ampersand sysdate 9, comma, starting from 6th position. All right. So this is where I'm creating, and this is where I'm checking the value for it. It is going to be person put ampersand equal to year. Okay. Let's check. Check this. So what is doing? Percent, it's a macro trigger. So it's going to be a macro function which is executing, or it is going to work on this macro variable to extract its at 6th position, its year value, which is 2022. Getting it now? Understood? Yes.
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 So how this works? Okay. Now, for example, I'll execute this data set. Now, it's going to create a data set for me in my library called work. Why? Because I have not referenced any library for my, why it's telling Orion dot, is it orders? Yes, it's orders data set. Okay, so recently created data set for me is order, correct? So you know very well, if I write person put, okay, and I write ampersand is equal to sys last. So what it is going to give me? Yes,
Work dot order.
Orders.
absolutely correct. So it's going to give me the recently created data set name in my log, which is work.order. Fine. So in this case, I write percent put, okay, and I want to check. Suppose I write percent scan. Now my caps lock got on. That's why scan is coming in caps. Otherwise, no need of capital letters. Understand that. Scan, I'm writing on my macro variable sys last, where I'm asking it to extract second word separated by a delimiter called period. So normally with your base SAS scan function, your delimiters we put into quotations, correct?
Yes.
But here, because it's a macro language, your delimiters here we no need of put into quotation. Now let's check this value. So I'm not creating any macro variable. I'm directly asking it to use with person put. Just extract the second word separated with period. It's giving me its order. Got it how scan is working now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was about scan. Now let me tell you, there is one function called %sys function and when to use it. Okay. Like for example, I'm creating a variable called percent let name equal to, and I'm creating as suppose this. All right. I write person put ampersand equal to name. So how it will come? My name value, how it is going to save? Its case is preserved, correct?
Yeah.
So it's showing me as it is,
Mm.
right? Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. But in case I gave that I want to see this value with percent upcase, I write it ampersand name. So let me update this ampersand name as something. Okay, let's check if it works. So see at the back, it's showing it is working where it's showing me, it's giving all the letters as upcase. So we have a function percent upcase for macro function which works on a macro variable. But I don't want all these values in upcase. I want in prop case. Yes, I want in prop case. So
Instead of
I may use percent put, okay, prop case. Now, upcase, we know we have this function. Why? Because we had seen this list, percent upcase we have. Prop case we have not used. So let's try to use prop case like this directly. Okay. On my macro variable.
No need to give percentage symbol.
That's what I'm telling you. See what is happening? It's not working. Why? Because prop case is a function which works on SAS variables, but this is a macro variable. Are you getting it? Hence, it's not working on this. So it's treated as a part of a text of this person put. So it's showing you as it is with this prop case, with this quotation. It's resolving ampersand name, but it's not working on this variable. Why? Because this is a SAS function which works only on SAS variables. This is your macro variable. Are you getting it? What I'm trying to tell you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Ashwini.
Yes. Swarupa.
Yes, Ashwini. Just
Okay.
Ashwini, like we are using it in percent put, right? It is like how we use it in like proper coding, like this with percent put, we
I'll
just
come to it. I'll come to
okay,
it.
okay,
We'll just understand the concept. Now,
okay.
because this is your SAS function, we want this to be used on your macro variable. Hence, we use percent sys function, which asks SAS to work on your SAS functions. So sys function is a macro variable which augments or which forces this SAS function to be worked on your macro variable. Now, when I'm using this sys function, percent sys function, it will help this SAS function to be work on your macro variable. So now I'm getting this value. Getting it? What is this function doing? So what is it was doing? See, it was telling it executes your SAS function. Getting it now? Understood?
Yes.
yes. So other than
So
those
sys
four functions in the table, rest everything they work only with SAS.
No, no, no. See, now I'm just trying to give you a list of it. In case if you're trying to use something like this and you find this is not using, so you do not know, you cannot remember the list of which are the macro variables and which are not the macro variable, macro functions. Sorry. Are you getting it? Which functions are preceding with percent, which are not preceding with function, with percent? Is it really a macro function? You will not be able to remember when you're simply typing a program, because you just want to type a program and finish it off, correct? So in that case, if you are not aware, if it is not clicking you that this is not a macro function, or it will work only as a SAS function, just ask it SAS to enhance its work by using this %sys function. So %sys function can be used on any SAS function to be used on your macro variable. So in our case here also, if I write,
Understood.
all right, now check, done.
Yeah.
So you might never remember also, is can really preceding with %sign.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, simply use this %sys function. Getting it now? Understood?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Ashu.
So this is how you can use this macro functions. Now coming back to your slides, I just tried to show you the same thing they are showing, %substr on this. So use %substr function to extract the year portion of your ampersand sysdate 9 for your macro variable. So %str substr function returns the portion of argument beginning at position for a length of n characters, same like your base substr. So when n is not supplied, the %substr function returns the position of argument beginning at the position at the end of your argument. That means in case if you do not write this, how many characters you want to extract, it will stop when this value of your position ends. So in our case, we had only 4 letters, so it extracts only this 4 values. Okay, so that's what it's trying to tell you. Same syntax like your substr. Okay, so these are some of the examples. See, we had seen this. So suppose you have a value called angel, which is in upcase. Okay, or sorry, you're just writing this is a value. Okay, you're writing %put %upcase. So this value will appear like this in your log. So you're creating a macro variable name with angel and you're writing %upcase. Either you give the value or you work on a macro variable. So this is what it's telling. You can use it with a constant text. You can use it with a macro variable reference, ampersand name. You get this. So how it works on macro functions. So see, you are extracting the name with first letter, first character, A, and you are asking it to upcase. Now earlier your name is having all small letters. So A, when it extracts its small case, it will extract A. After doing this inner function, it will work on outer function to upcase. That is what you get, this A is upcase. Same like your base SAS. Getting it? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Ashu.
And then we can call your macro. Now what is a call? I'll explain you later on once we start with lesson 3. But understand the first 3 parts. Look at it carefully. It's same like your base SAS, but only thing is it's preceding with %sign. So constant text arguments do not require quotation marks. Why? Because it's a macro, and in macro you never give a quotation marks. All right, because as it is, macro itself is a text processing facility. All right, now answer this. What is the value of X after %let statement gets executed here? You are asking it X to be created by using substr on this value, which is in quotes A, B, C, D, comma 2, comma 1. So which letter it will extract from this expression?
So we'll count the quotes also, right? Quotations. If that is the case,
Okay,
option A.
yes. So what will be the value? A,
A.
B, C, or D?
A.
Okay. Others, do you agree with Nilima?
B, I think.
Okay. Priyanka, Swarupa,
Yeah.
what? A, B, C, or D?
B.
Yes. Swarupa, Priyanka.
I think it's, yeah, what Nilima is saying, I get it, but I am not understanding. Like it's with the
Okay.
Quotation,
quotation, it will be two.
quotation is also one
It's
character.
going to be a part of your text because Swarupa, we know macro is a text processing facility. So here we never give any character value within quotes. So it treats this as a part of a text. So it treats starting from the first position. Oh, sorry, it's taking this as first value or first character. This is as a second character. So starting at the second place, first letter, it's extracting A.
Yeah,
Getting it now?
yeah.
All right. Priyanka, Shanmuga.
Okay. Getting.
Yes. So scan function is same like your base SAS scan function, same syntax. So it's telling returns the nth word of your argument, where words are strings of characters separated by delimiters. Uses a default set of delimiters if none are specified. Returns a null string if there are fewer than n word in the argument. See here also the delimiter period is not put in quotes. Okay, so this is not required in your argument when you're providing delimiters as a special sign. So it's a separator, so no need of putting in quotes. In base SAS, we use quotation marks, correct, for your delimiters, correct? But here there is no need of quotation marks. All right, people.
Suppose if we use person sys followed by the SAS scan function, then also no need to use double quotation delimiter.
No, no. See in this in our case, did I use it in quotes?
Okay.
Because this is a macro variable, this is a macro function, this is my macro statement. I'm just asking my SAS function to be implemented on macro variable, but because it does not have capacity, the SAS function, to work on macro variable, hence I'm enhancing its activity by using sys function. Now because it's a macro variable, it's a whole thing as a macro language, your period no need of giving in quotation.
Okay.
Got it?
Okay. Yeah.
Now come on this scenario. Swarupa, so this is where your question answers. Now in this scenario, you are creating this data set you are using in proc means. Okay, right?
Yeah.
So here you have. So let me open this activity. Okay, but this column order date, let me check. We had opened a table for it, right? Order date. But in our data, we have this, but we are using the concept of ampersand sys, correct? Sys date. So it will give us our, what it will give us our system date, correct? Are you getting it what I'm trying to actually
Yes.
explain here? Okay, so let's work on it only. So it's the same thing. So it could, we can have percent let.
We can give the current date, right? With the empty ampersand. Sorry.
No, but your current date in your data set, you don't have a current date now if you use here to subset.
Mm.
Are you getting it what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I was checking from the data. Let's check if we have something of like this. If it's not there, we'll use a specific date. So it's 2000. Let's work on this 12th November, okay? 2007. Where were we in A? 12 November 2007. Correct? This is the value. So you use it as ampersand. you want to extract your function. So because your function is a SAS function, correct? Are you getting it? It will
Yes.
not use, it will not be working here appropriately. So it's better I make use of percent sys function on this. So let's check whether it's going to execute.
Sys function spelling mistake is there.
Yes, thank you. Okay, meanwhile it comes, let's come to our slide. So what it's telling, business scenario, write and debug a program with hard-coded constants. So you're typing the values now. Okay, then later on you can use the macro variable. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Vishnu.
Yes.
Okay. So instead of hard coding, you can type the macro variable. It got stuck. Internet is unstable. So this is where we are hard coding the values. So let's not hard code it, but make it as a macro variable where this macro variable is going to give you your system date. Okay, and this is going to give you the information of last created data set because you have created in data step the recently created data set. So directing using substr are here to extract the your value. See, now you're using here, but instead of that, why I used in my program in this way, it's because we do not have an existing data set with a current year value of 2011. Okay, so in case if I might have used this code where it's going to extract the information for my system date, I will get null values in my output. Okay, so in case I execute this as it is, the data set creating orders, I will not have any rows into it. Why? See, why?
Because it is 2022, right? It's 11.
2022, correct. And the data set which we have, it's only till 2010 or 2011. Getting it? So that is why the program which I was working, I'm working with creating a variable order date with this value. I'm using it like this and I'm extracting in my year value. So let's check whether it's working here. Are you getting it what I've done here now? Instead of using sysdate, I'm creating a macro variable on which it should get extracting the value. Okay, so it's telling it's not working on ampersand order date. Argument
You
one to function.
you gave
Yes.
D as a capital,
No, that's
but
all fine. That's all fine. So person
okay.
or let's use Q function. This is just a enhanced function, person Q function. Okay, Q sys function. Will this work? Let me check. No. So invalid argument. So it's not working correctly. All right, so that I'll have to look later on. But this was, I was trying to do it on my macro variable ampersand date. It's okay if it's not working. Is this correct or your parenthesis? Yes, but fine. So in our current example where we were trying to use this, it was not coming correctly for our recent example. But the direct use of substr, and here also I can use directly percent percent scan on my macro variable, which is ampersand sys date or sys last, correct?
Yes, last.
Yes, sys last, where I need to extract on sys last,
Second,
um, yes, comma, second word separated by period. Okay, so like this, it will come into titles. So let's check. Now, of course, we don't have any data sets into our data value, but let's check whether it's executing without any errors. So because there is no data set, obviously we'll not get any proc print because there were no observation. But this is how your scan works on syslast. Okay, so that's what they were telling here also, that in this scenario we are doing the same thing, and this is where you get the report with your proc, means the data set name in your title. All right. Yes. So let's understand the further functions. We saw one of them was sys function. Now we'll see percent eval. Okay, so how percent eval works? So if this is the value, we know x is equal to 2 plus 2. You know 2 plus 2 will never resolve as 4 because macro is a text processing facility. It will save as 4 itself. Correct? See, so in case you want to evaluate this expression, you write percent eval 2 plus 2 on the value, or you can directly write percent eval ampersand x. So you'll get the value resolved as 4. Getting it? So this percent eval function does the following: truncates non-integer results, results at text value. Obviously, even if it is doing evaluation, the value returns is still going to be a text because it's a macro facility. Okay, returns true if value is 1, that is true, or 0 if false, if the logic is incorrect. So returns a null value and error message when non-integer values are used in arithmetic expression. All right, so in case if you want to have any evaluations done, you can use percent eval. So in this case, see this example, you are creating two macro variables, this year, last year. Okay, so you are extracting the variable value from this year, whatever is your system date. Okay, and you are asking how to create last year variable. So you are asking percent eval on ampersand this year, which you have created by extracting the year from this system date, minus 1. So this minus 1 will give you the value for your system date. So how it works? Okay, so let me show this. I hope you are understanding what percent eval is doing.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Percent put ampersand equal to this year space ampersand equal to last year. Okay, let's check. In case if you want to generate a report between the 2 years, okay, for this year or last year, so it's better you can use it this way, arithmetic expression. So this year is extracting 2002, last year is telling 2001, and you can use this within your program to subset your data on your date. So you can tell that you are actually creating a report between 2010 and 2011 for this current example. All right. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Swarupa, are you getting it?
Yes, Ashwin.
Shanmuga, Priyanka?
Yes, Ashwini.
Okay. So this is what, as we saw, how sys function works. See, prop case, it will not give you the result of prop case on macro variable. So you want this SAS function to be executed on a macro variable, we use sys function. All right. So the SAS function augments in the name of your SAS function and it corresponds its argument. So the second argument is an optional format for the value returned by the first argument, which is about the formats. So it's like format that in case if you want to apply a format for this particular value. All right. So this is how sys function works. Okay, so it's telling automatic macro variable sys date 9 sys date time can be used in titles. So like this. So you know sys date 9 and sys time represents the date and time that SAS session begins. Okay, you know very well. So in case you want to apply a format. So earlier it was showing the original way of representing its value as it is saved for this macro variables as it is. Okay. So it gives you the date and time when you start your session. So in case you do not want your date and time like this as date 9 dot and time like this. So you can apply formats so that it appear like this. So what it is doing, see, title, person sys function. Today you are extracting today and you are applying a format weekday. For time with null parenthesis, it will extract your current system time and it will apply this format time AM PM 8 dot. So it's telling it's 1:39 PM. So it accordingly takes its PM or AM because you're applying this format. And same thing weekday dot. So it's telling it's which weekday, it's which month, it's day, and it's year. So you can apply formats on this macro variables when you are extracting the information. You can also apply formats. So that's what this syntax was. Sys function can be used on SAS function. Give the arguments and apply formats. Okay, so that is what this example is. All fine? Understood?
Yes.
Others? Swarupa, Priyanka, Shanmuga.
Yes,
Yes,
Ashwini.
Ashwini.
Okay. Okay, now answer this poll. What is the problem with this attempt to store a complete SAS statement in a macro variable? Now open this demo D08, execute and check what is happening. Chapter 2, demo D08. So this was it. First statement, percent let statement title get executed. So you know percent let should create a macro variable statement. Okay, so let's check the value for statement. Pay attention, I'll explain you, don't worry. Percent put and I'll check the value what would be for statement. Okay, so let's check. So statement, the value is title and it's in quotes S and P, correct? Let me execute it again. It's not showing it in log, maybe re-execute. Yes. Now see, actually percent let you are creating a macro variable statement where title is in double quotes S and P 500 semicolon. So when you're looking at the value for ampersand statement, it's giving this value. But at the same time, within this, it has this percent P, ampersand P. So it's treating it's a macro variable. Hence, it's telling this P is not resolved. So what is the problem? What they are expecting is this title, we know this title is actually a statement of SAS and it should come along with the semicolon. It should end as a part, as a value of this semicolon, as a value for this title, as if it's a statement. Okay, so this is what is expected. Are you getting it? What I'm trying to tell you. Title is your base SAS statement. Agreed?
Yes.
Yes.
So it should always end with a semicolon.
Yes.
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 Correct? Then if you are creating a macro variable statement on this title or statement, when it resolves, it should come along with a semicolon, because it's a title statement which we are expecting with semicolon, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is happening is, this semicolon, it's been treated as a part or as the end of your percent let statement, but it's not taking as a part of this text. Okay, so to overcome, can I use another semicolon?
So it won't
Yes,
work. No.
yes or no?
No.
No.
Why?
It like one or two, it will work as the same, right?
We can keep that entire thing in brackets and then end with a semicolon.
Okay, so if you keep entire thing with brackets, don't you think even brackets will be the part of the semicolon?
Yeah.
See, it's treating as one of the syntax error. Of course, P is not resolving, it's treating this. So it's telling it started here, ended here. So statement is not valid or it is used out of proper order. And see what is resolving the value.
Shall
Are you
we put
getting it?
the period after semicolon?
So you think you're telling remove this, correct?
No.
Okay.
After the semicolon, shall we put period? It will take
Period.
that as a,
But
yeah.
that is not a P. This is not your macro variable value. Then why
Oh.
you want period? So in case if I write this way, so it's not a macro trigger, right, Sharmuga? So how period will be used there?
Yes.
Correct. So still it's not taking this semicolon as a part of this text. Okay, so in this case, if you want a semicolon to be a part of your text, put it within your parenthesis, okay, and make use of a function called as percent %str. Okay, so what this percent %str will do, it is actually a macro function where the normal meaning of this semicolon will masked off and it will take it as if a part of this text, all right, and it will evaluate it to give you the value appropriately along with semicolon. And just hold on. Okay, so let's check this part.
Ashwini?
Yes, I am there, but
Oh, okay. Uh,
there's some internet issue. Can you people hear me?
yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, does it only work for the semicolon as a special character or other special characters also?
It's a bit slow connection. It's can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so Nilima, Swarupa, Priyanka, Shanmuga, I hope you all are there.
Yes.
Yes, Ashwini.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so
Ashwin.
see, %str I have used. Okay, so this is a part of text. So this special sign is also a part of the text because of this %str. So %str, what it does is it masks the normal meaning of the special signs like period, hyphen, comma, semicolon, parenthesis, and hence it's taking title as the whole statement. And because this is treating as a part of this text, this semicolon is a part of this text, and this semicolon it acts as a part of your statement. So when we see the value for ampersand statement, it gives you as if it's a title statement with this semicolon. Getting it? So wherever you have any special signs within your text, so to avoid giving any errors or any type of syntax issues, you mask that with %str. So %str is a function which masks the normal meaning of your special signs. Now though you will tell, now you have this warning. Now you are observing that I am telling that %str is masking the normal meaning of all the special signs, then why it's not working with ampersand? Correct? Correct? It's
Yes.
still
Yeah.
giving that this is treating as if it's a macro variable, but we know it's not a macro variable. It should read as S and P. Correct? So %str is a function which masks the normal meaning of all the special signs. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But here, why it's not working with ampersand? It's still telling this is a warning coming. It's treating as if it's a macro variable. Are you getting it what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes, Ashwini. Why is it
Yes,
not
Okay.
there?
Ashwini.
Yeah. So in this case, you write an enhanced macro variable %nrstr. So when you write %nrstr, it is going to mask the normal meaning of all your special signs, including the macro triggers, which is ampersand and %sign. Okay, so we have two macro triggers, correct? Percent and ampersand. So in this case, let's check this with %nrstr. So percent put I write ampersand is equal to, let's check the value for your statement with %nrstr. So meanwhile, the slide is up. Let's answer this poll. So what was the problem? It was giving us a warning, and of course, the semicolon was not
No
coming as a
warning with
part of your title.
NRSTR.
Correct? So this is what it was telling. The semicolon was not coming as a part of your title. The semicolon was not coming as a part of your title. So this is what it was telling. The semicolon was not coming as a part of your title. So did you check your PDF book for the explanation?
From the demo,
Yes?
from the demo
No, the
using,
same slide. Yeah, tell me.
using NRSTR, there is no warning this time.
Yeah, so see, str, so we are using %str function, which masks or removes the normal meaning of your special tokens. So look at your special tokens, plus, minus, star, all this. Okay, so they have not included any macro triggers. Okay, so what it's telling, mask tokens, so the macro processor does not interpret them as macro level syntax, enables macro triggers to work normally, preserves leading and trailing blanks in its argument, masks and unpaired quotation marks or parentheses in argument. So this is where if we are using it, now see again here, you are using %str, but this is not getting masked off. So to overcome this issue, because it's giving treating as a macro variable for ampersand p, so it's telling it's not resolved. So you write an enhanced macro variable function called %nrstr. All fine, Nilima?
Yes, Ashwin.
Okay. So same thing we had seen on our code also. So that's what I was doing here. See? So meanwhile it comes. So this
Does
was
that
all
mean this
about
time?
your macro functions. So answer this poll. Yeah. Yes, Nilima.
Uh, for the
Yeah.
last using NRSTR, we are not getting any warning also. So does that mean this time the ampersand P is also resolved?
Yes. It's not resolving. It's masking the normal meaning of that special sign. So it will not treat as a macro trigger,
Oh, okay, okay.
because we know it's not a macro variable ampersand p, it's actually s and p.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So str, it will mask the normal meaning of special signs, but
Mm.
nrstr along with your other special signs, the macro trigger signs like percent and ampersand, its normal meaning is also masked off. Getting it? That means it will not treat as a macro trigger.
Yes. Okay.
Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Swarupa, Shanmuga, I hope you are following.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Ashwin.
So answer this poll. You can use macro functions to do which of the following?
A, B,
A,
Mm-hmm.
B, and D.
D also.
Absolutely correct. We cannot use C because we know macro functions works only on macro variables and not on SAS variables. Correct? A, B, and D. Absolutely correct. That's it. And then end of your chapter. You have an exercise. I hope this is clear with %str and nrstr. So what nrstr is telling that this function works same as str %str, except it also mask your macro triggers. That's what it was doing. So let's check whether we get an output with your. So this is where it is. See, I used %nrstr. So the normal meaning of all the special signs is also covered along with this macro trigger. Hence, it's showing you without any warnings and errors. So it masked here. Earlier we were getting ampersand p. It was stating as if a macro variable, though you was getting a warning that it is not resolving. But here we know it's not a macro variable. It's actually a part of your text. Hence, to overcome its normal meaning that it's not a macro trigger, hence you used nrstr. So nrstr is stating as a part of your text. Getting it now?
Yes.
Yes, Ashwini.
Okay, so STR and NRSTR are the same. Only thing NRSTR is enhanced with masking the macro triggers. That's it, along with
So,
other special signs.
so it will work with
All
percentage.
right? Yes, yes. Now, in case if I go back here and I try to change this, that you it is suppose I write it as %sign. Okay, let's check. Now it's with %NRSTR. So you can also try this statement simultaneously. So meanwhile it gets executed. So this was all about for our today's session. So this is the end of your
It is masking all kinds of macro triggers, even the percent.
yes, it's masking. Absolutely correct. It is going to mask. Swarupa, did you try? So Nilima, can you just share that code on the chat box so that Swarupa and Shanmuka can work on it? So Shanmuga and Swarupa, she has given the code. So just try it out.
Okay, Ashwini.
Yes, it is working.
So did it work for you, everyone?
Yes, Ashwini.
Yes, Ashwini, it's
Yes.
working.
Great. So let's stop for the day. So I would request you to please revise the topics for this lesson and so that we can start our lesson number 3 on Sunday. Okay?
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
Ashwini.
So meanwhile, good night, take care, and of course, revise your topics. Bye and see you all in next class.
Thank you, Ashwini.